Listen to this episode if you are wanting to go full time in your business, but you're unsure what that process should look like and you're just feeling a little nervous. This is actually a question I get asked so often is how do you actually make this transition? How do you know that you are ready for it? And what does that full kind of process look like? What are some of the mistakes people make? What are some things to watch out for? And really just what's some insight in going from having a side hustle, a business that you're working on in the evenings to making it your full time gig. I'm so excited to discuss this topic today. If you're new here, I just want to take a second to welcome you. Hello, my name is Madison Page. I'm the host of the Small Business Growth Podcast. Here we like to teach in a fun, conversational type of way. I like to say it's kind of like sipping coffee with a biz bestie, meaning you are sitting across from me at the local coffee shop and we are just chatting. I like to share raw and real and genuine business growth advice with tangible business growth strategies. So I want you to leave every episode with a list of things to do or a new perspective shift or really just feeling like you are supported in your journey. First things first, I just want to congratulate you for even being at the point of listening to this episode. Just owning a business in general is something that so many people don't do. It's something that for many, it is a huge leap, and you've done such an incredible job to get here. You've put your heart, your soul, and everything into your business. This is such an exciting point for you because it really is going all in and choosing. It's a life changing decision. And so I just want to congratulate you for even being at the point of wanting to learn about this, being interested in finding out more, and really just having this business in general. I want to just give you a nice little pat on the back that you are even listening to this episode and preparing for this major milestone in your life. Second, I just want to give almost like a little bit of a disclaimer is that I might not say everything absolutely perfect today. And I say that because this is a topic that I get asked so often. And a lot of times I shy away from talking about it because everybody's financial situation is a little different. Everybody's life is a little bit different. And I'm afraid to give advice that it might not be perfect for your exact situation. So, just as a disclaimer, I want you to take this episode with a little bit of a grain of salt because some of you have kids, some of you are supporting yourself, some of you have a husband, some of you everybody's situation is a little bit different. And this is one that isn't A, B, and C. If you have this amount of money and you have this little of bills, you can go full time. It's something that does look a little different for everybody, but I'm going to talk through asking yourself some questions, talking about the actual process of going full time and then bringing some ideas and perspective to you that you might not have even thought about just because I have helped hundreds of people quit their 9 to 5 at this point. And so I just really want to go through this process, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a disclaimer is I don't want to be insensitive. I don't want to provide financial advice without knowing your specific situation. But this is something that there is a process behind, and going full time in your business is an incredible feat. It's so great, but there are a lot of things like it literally is your livelihood at that point. And so we do just want to make sure that we are covering everything with a little bit of a grain of salt. Everybody's situation is a little bit different. If you have a very like specific question for you, my DMs on Instagram are always open for you. Please feel free to reach out and I would absolutely love to chat with you on Instagram and answer your specific questions. If you're like, Maddie, what does this look like for a business like mine or a life like mine, whatever that might be. Without further ado, let's dive on into this. If you are watching the video, I know I talked about this a couple of episodes ago, but now that we have switched and we are able to have video on Spotify, you guys are able to watch this as if you were watching on YouTube or anything like that. You're able to watch it with the video. We're working on developing a cute little studio. So let me know your thoughts. We added some pillows, we added some lights, we have some new things coming. We have some art coming that I'm so excited about to bring it all together. And I really just want this to be a cozy space where it feels like we really are sitting down and having a cup of coffee. So let me know what you're thinking about with the new studio, the new look. Give me any tips and tricks. I'm not an interior designer. I'm not very great at it, but it's something that I do really love to do. I love to decorate. So would love to hear your feedback on that as well. So, some major factors that I do want you to look into. First things first is your monthly recurring expenses for your life and your business. So, of course, before we know we can go full time, you need to know what your actual expenses are in order to maintain the life that you are living. Like, without having anything extra, what are you spending every single month in your business, in your life? And can the business that you have sustain that and not really change the quality of life that you have? And it's okay to go full time and have it change your quality of life a little bit. Maybe you have to cut expenses in somewhere, but I do think it's really good just to have a good idea of what your kind of monthly churn is every single month in your business and your life. A lot of people out there don't have a solid budget. They're not exactly sure of how much money is going in and out. I know for me, like, money comes in, money comes out. I'm kind of like, if someone were to ask me to the exact dollar, I couldn't give them that answer. And so this is an answer to the question that you definitely want to have before you're able to really even start the process of looking at your full-time job. The next one is looking at your household total income. So now this is something that looks a little different. If it's just you, like if you're like, Maddie, it's me, myself, and I, this is how much I spend. It's a little bit cleaner than if it's you, you have a partner, you have kids. We have to be able to take a little bit more into account, but it's really helpful to know what your total household income is. And with a business, something that's really tough is A, business ebbs and flows. B, like, sales aren't guaranteed. C, we have to, like, we're not just like showing up and making $2,000 every 2 weeks and like money's coming into our bank account. Money comes in as sales come in. And so we have to be able to identify that. Do you have a process down where your business is actually paying you a certain amount? So for me, my business, I have a certain amount of money come out of my bank account every 2 weeks out of my business bank account and puts it into my personal bank account. So it's not like I get a paycheck, but every other week without fail, I know how much money I personally am making, because your personal income and your professional income is very different as a business owner. It can't be all in one. So we have to identify what is your actual total household income, and can those two things match up with the current sales that you have. The next one is that I want you to kind of think about, what would you be doing with this time? What are your current gaps in your business that you feel like you aren't able to tackle because you don't have enough time in the day? This is something that, again, it's very personal to your business. But if we're thinking about going full time, what are the major tasks that you feel like you aren't able to do right now? And what would you be doing instead? If you were full time, what are the pieces that you feel like you would be able to do? Where would you be able to go all in? And where do you feel like your current gaps are, and is that gap like a timing gap that you just don't have the time to do everything every day? You don't have the time to do everything that you need to every week, that you're really just working in your business. I think one of the major signs that it's a great time to go full time in your business is if you're making good sales in your business, but it just feels like you don't have enough time in the day to get everything done that you need to, because you're working that full time job, you're coming home, you're working more hours, you're depleted, you're feeling like you can't really even show up productively. Because a lot of times what ends up happening is that your business actually gets the last little bit of effort and productivity and like energy that you have, because you're trying to squeeze it in. Whereas if you were able to really sit down, you could be productive if this was your full time job. We'll get into this a little bit more, but are the major gaps in your business, do they feel strategic? Is it that you don't have the time? Is it that you don't have the information? Is it that you don't have an understanding of what to do next? Before you can really identify if it's time to go full time, you have to identify what do you need to change in order to see a change. And if that really is, Maddie, I know exactly what I need to do, I just literally don't have the time in the week, it is a good time to think about going full time. Another one is looking at the themes in your business and looking at the common ebbs and flows of sales. Again, sales are not guaranteed. Every business has busy seasons and slower seasons. So when we're looking at that, we have to be able to identify, is this actually a good time to go full time? Sometimes it's a good to go full time when it's a slower season in business, because that means you'll have more time to actually work on the business as opposed to just jumping right into a busy season. However, either way, we need to be able to withstand the ebbs and the flows of sales. So when we're looking at the amount of household income and the amount of money that your business is bringing in, we have to think of it as what is our baseline sales, and let's go off of that. We can't go off of your like anomaly months, your December or your busiest season. We have to go off of like what you make 80% of the months. Next one is what would you do if you had these extra 40 hours to spend on your business, or however many hours you're working, 34, 20 hours, whatever that is. Right now, if I were to grant you an extra 40 hours a week, what would you be spending your time on? And that is obviously where we would prioritize if you were to go full time. If you don't know the answer to that, there you might have a gap in knowledge that we need to fill prior to going full time. I do think sometimes people go full time and then they end up like spinning their wheels of not really knowing what to do to work on their business. They don't really know. All of a sudden, they're still working the same amount of hours in their business, which is, yes, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., but it's stretched throughout the whole day. They're getting the same amount accomplished, just, spending more time because they're poking around here, poking around there. They're trying to kind of figure out their schedule. They're sleeping a little later. They're hanging out with their family at home, whatever that looks like. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is a huge perk of being full time in your business. But we need to be able to ensure that if you are adding 40 hours to your calendar to be able to work on your business, we know what we're doing with those 40 hours. But that's something that we can definitely do within the process. And we'll cover that here shortly. Those are major factors. Those are like measurable factors that we can look at some numbers and see, does this actually make sense from a financial standpoint for you to go full time? Does it make sense from a numbers standpoint, from like a timing standpoint? But I also want to talk about some non like factual, non measurable things. I started touching on this a little bit earlier, but there's some pieces that by getting rid of your full time job, by getting rid of your corporate job, you are getting rid of a lot of tasks, a lot of brain power that you now can put toward your business. So we also have to think about how your timing for your business, the time you're spending on your business is actually going to be more effective. It's going to be more efficient. It's going to be more productive. You're going to have more energy in your day. You're going to improve your quality of life. Like actually going full time in your business does more than just give you extra time to spend on your business. It allows you to not have that drain of energy elsewhere. It allows for you to really have your full focus on something that when you wake up Monday morning, you're able to look at your business with a fresh set of eyes, feeling rejuvenated, as opposed to going to your full time job, working 8 to 9 hours, coming home, eating dinner, and trying to squeeze it in on the weekends and in the evenings. If you go full time in your business, it actually allows you to have your business, the time that you're spending, your quality of life, your brain power, your work actually be more effective, be more efficient, be more productive. There are so many things that actually improve when you do go full time. Of course, your quality of life can improve. It allows you to maybe be home with your kids. There's so many things that you're adding that, yes, we can always look at the factual pieces, at the financial element, and it has to make sense for you financially. It can't be something that all of a sudden you're strapped and you have $2 and you can't feed yourself dinner, but it is something that it might be a jump to allow you to have this increase in energy and efficiency and productivity, as well as some of these other non measurable benefits that you can get from it as well. So I just want to provide some context on some things to think about, some places for you to start. I do believe I have a podcast episode all about how to identify if it's a good time for you to go full time in your business or not. At the end of the day, having an extra 40 hours, 30 hours, 20 hours for your business, if you can actually allocate those 20 hours properly and do the right thing and do the strategy and really stick to a calendar and a plan and all of those things, that can be absolutely life changing for your business. I have so many business owners come to me saying, me and my partner, we're both still working and we have sales coming in our business, but we just feel capped. And one of my first questions is there a reason that you haven't gone full time? And it's because they have cash flow issues, or they're just nervous about it. They don't know, like they feel like it's a little scary. And then we bring them through this process I'm about to bring you through. They go full time, and their business, the missing link to their business actually thriving was just being able to have somebody be full time or be able to spend more time on the business. Why that is because a lot of times people, like, Business takes time. Business takes dedication. There are just tasks that need to get done every week. And the root of your problem might be that you literally just don't have the amount of time in the week to do all of the things you're trying to do with the amount of energy that we actually have as people. Like your battery is probably depleted if you're trying to do all of these things. If you have chosen, it's a good plan for you. You are going to go full time. Let's talk about a process that I recommend doing to really go through this. And this means you could go full time in 6 months. You can choose to go full time in 2 weeks. You could choose to go full time in 1 year, whatever that is. First things first is I want you to pick a date. I want you to look at a calendar and I want you to choose a date that this is when you want to be full time by. And then I want you to journal or write down or plan what do you need saved in your like accounts? How much money do you need saved and ready for you? What do you want saved, ready, and done by then? What are the actual like amount of money that you need in your account by that time in order to make yourself comfortable to go full time? What are the things that you need to do? Do you need to fix your website? Do you need to learn something? Do you need to have a new product line ready? Do you need to be having your packaging? What are the pieces that you need to have completed by the time you are going full time to feel more comfortable? What do you need to have saved, ready, or done by the day that you are setting right now? And if that's in 2 weeks, again, we have to go back to the idea of what are you going to do with those hours? If you don't know what we're going to do, we need to start with filling that gap. We need to start with really identifying. Like, if you're like, all right, Maddie, I'm gonna have 40 extra hours. I don't really know what I'm gonna do at that time. You're like, Maddie, don't you worry. I'll find something to do at that time. First things first is we do really need to look at the strategy and make sure that you understand what we're filling in those gaps. The next one is what are your money generating activities that you're focusing on first? What are the things that you have never been able to do because you've always been working this full time job and there just wasn't the amount of hours in the day? This is something that we have already kind of discussed, like in that piece of being able to figure out when it's the right time for you to go full time. This is something that we need to ask. What are your major money generating activities that you're focusing on first? And again, if you don't have those, we need to focus on learning what that piece might be so we know that your business is more strategized and ready to actually see this growth. The next one is I want you to start implementing those pieces now, because the sooner we start implementing these money generating activities, filling those into the gaps, even if you are still working your full-time job, the sooner we can do that, the sooner that they'll actually start working for you and you'll start to see those sales increases. One of the major problems that people have is when they aren't full-time in their business is that they're only working in your business, meaning you're only making products, you're only packaging products, you're only shipping products, you're making content. You're basically getting by because that's all that you can do. That's all that you have the time for is the hour or two a day that you're spending on this, meaning you are only able to work in the business. You're never able to actually work on the business, on the growth side of things, on improving your website, looking at your analytics, implementing emails, reaching out to people for collaborations, doing some wholesale, getting on Amazon, whatever that sounds like for you. What are those money generating activities, those business growth, working on your business activities that we want to do? And if you don't know which ones are right for you, we have to start identifying that really soon. The next piece is figuring out where you're going to work. Now, I know you're like, Maddie, that is a non issue. I'm going to sit at my kitchen table and I'm going to have a grand time sipping my coffee in my living room. I'm here to tell you that not everybody can work from home. Just because it's a possibility doesn't mean that it's something that's actually going to be the most effective option for you. And this is something that you're going to have to be forever in your entire life. We're going to be figuring out how we can be a better business owner, how we can be more effective, how we can plan our days better, how we can figure out our schedule a little bit more. But when we are jumping into this full time, I want you to have a dedicated workspace. It can't just be you sitting on this couch that you're looking at me sitting at right now. It can't just be I'm just going to work wherever I want to. I'm going to lay in bed. I want you to say, no, this is my dedicated workspace. Now, that doesn't mean you need an office. That doesn't mean that you need, like, I realize that's not accessible to have. Some people need a studio. Some people want an office. That's not what I mean. I mean, your dedicated workspace is your dining room table, and you know when you sit there, this is you working. Maybe it's going to be an office. Maybe you're going to have a table. Maybe you're going to put a desk in your bedroom. Whatever that looks like, I just want you to have a dedicated workspace. That doesn't mean that you need to buy anything if that's not accessible for you. But what it does mean is that in your mind, when you are sitting here, you are working, meaning that you can wake up, do your morning routine, and sit down at that spot and know that it's work time. Why this is so important, and this is something that you will really like forever be working on as a business owner, is we really have to get our brain into work mode. When your business is being run out of your house, it feels like your entire house is just a workspace. So, like, for me right now, we just moved into this home and we haven't yet be created my office, which is going to be in our second bedroom that we have here. We haven't yet created that. And so I'm working like at a kitchen. It's not a kitchen table. It's literally like the kitchen. There's like a stand up bar in between our kitchen and our living room. It's really hard for me to actually have this like dedicated workspace. But I've been a business owner working for myself for literally basically my whole life. So it's not something that I struggle with anymore. But if I did this at the beginning, when I was starting my business, I had a desk, I had a room, I closed the door, I sat down, I lit a candle, and I like had this process of getting me into work so I could then close the door and leave it and actually be able to leave work at work. And it's so hard to really have that when you're a business owner for yourself, is actually being able to step away. And if you start being a full-time business owner by working on the couch, working from bed, like working anywhere that's as comfy as possible, you'll actually end up never being able to shut your business off. We have to have those boundaries right away. And so I highly recommend having a dedicated workspace. And for some people, getting an office is actually much more helpful for them. For some people, like renting an office 10 minutes from their house allows them to actually separate that, get up, kind of get into a routine, not get bogged down by doing the laundry midday and washing the dishes and seeing all of the clutter over there and cleaning up your house here and there. For some of my colleagues, they absolutely could work from home, but they actually choose to have a studio or they have an office or they have somewhere, they have a warehouse, they have something that actually allows them to get out of the house and have a little bit more of a schedule. And why I say this is honestly, I think the scheduling piece is one of the hardest pieces about becoming a full time business owner. Because when you're working a full time job, you have figured it out as okay, how can I get the most amount done in these 2 hours? It's like in college when you were given a full semester to write an essay, it took you the full semester to write that 5 page essay. However, when you had to write a 5 page essay in 7 days, it only took you those 7 days. It's kind of like that procrastination piece of, you used to only have 2 hours, so you were incredibly effective and very productive for those 2 hours. You put your phone away and you kind of zoned in and just got the work done. But now you have infinite amount of time and it can almost feel like, all right, like, what am I going to do? You're like twiddling your thumbs. You're like poking around. You're looking at your numbers over here. You're making some content. It just kind of can feel a little chaotic, a little lackluster. And so what it's on you as a business owner to find the schedule that actually makes sense for you. So one of the major pieces here is prepping a schedule. This may take you time to figure out, but I want you to have hours that you're saying you're working, whether that's 10 to 4, whether that's 9 to 7, whatever that looks like for you to get started. I want you to have hours that you are working. I want you to stick to it. And I want you to not work later, not work earlier, especially at the beginning. But you need to have a little bit more of a schedule. When I started my business in this business, I like time blocked every single hour on the hour for what I was doing. I knew I was making content for 1 hour, and then the next hour I was editing it. And then the next hour I was doing client calls. Like every single hour I was working was basically accounted for when I sat down. And that really helped me to be able to have a schedule that was prepped that allowed for like me to be very productive. It allowed for me to sit down and know what to do and like actually allocate the time where it needed to be. Because again, it's a little different for everybody of what schedule works for you, depending if you're going to have kids home, what does your calendar really look like? So you need to have that calendar prepped. So we've talked a lot about business now. We've talked a lot about where are you going to work? What is your schedule going to look like? What are you going to do? I also want to talk about the idea of now business being your everything. Businesses now, once you go full time, it is your livelihood. It is your everything. You are thinking about it all day. It's the only means of a lot of times we make a lot of our friends at work. We have a lot of extroverted conversation at work. Like we get enough conversation at work that you don't need that fulfillment elsewhere, right? Like you're going to work, you're like chatting and doing the small talk with my coworkers is enough. I don't need that anywhere else. But now you don't have coworkers. You might not, but you might not have coworkers. So we have to also be able to identify what are you doing outside of work? Now, you know this if you've been a part of my community. I am really big into talking about you need to have something outside of your business. You need to have things outside of your business to build your identity elsewhere as well. And so, what that means is I want you to have hobbies. I want you to have standing lunch dates with friends. I want you to do art. I want you to be creative and have that on your schedule to do watercolor every Wednesday night. You need to be able to, again, be able to shut your business off and guilt free be able to work on your life, just enjoy life, find fulfillment elsewhere. Because what happens is when your business becomes your everything, you're no longer leaving the house for anything else. You don't have coworkers and it's all that you're thinking about. I still deal with this to this day. I will come home on a Sunday, do my Sunday reset, and literally not leave the house for anything but maybe like a workout class or going to the gym until Saturday morning. Like it's like I literally spend 5, 6 days in my home with my fiance being the only person that I'm talking to, other than maybe a phone call with my mom or one of my good friends throughout the week. But I don't see anybody. I'm at my home. I'm by myself. I work for myself. I have a couple of people that I talk to and I talk to my clients all day long. But like, you need to be able to get yourself out of the house. The weeks that I start to get in my head and I'm ruminating, I'm like, Maddie, you need to get out of the house. Go for a nice long hike, go to dinner with a friend, reach out to somebody, hang out with them, because we can get so caught up in our own thoughts, our own ideas, all of the things that we want to do that life can all of a sudden get pretty overwhelming and it doesn't have to be. And I hate the go touch grass, but sometimes as a business owner, we have to go touch some dang grass. Why? Is because we're just so caught up in our own brain. As a business owner, you have to have things that fulfill you outside of your business as well. The more that I leaned in to actually enjoying my off time, doing things that I love, and that's not just like putting a movie on and like watching Netflix and drinking a glass of wine. That is doing something that is going to fulfill us in a different way. That might be rest. That's good. Like we do that. We watch a movie probably every night, but I also have something that I am doing that day that fulfills me. So I will do pottery. I will paint. I will do something to plan our wedding. Like you have to do something outside of business often and regularly and make it a point on your calendar so you don't get burnt out just from hanging out with you and you yourself only. It absolutely is an issue with a lot of my clients, and it's something that I work through personally a lot as well. It's something I have to constantly remind myself. So not only do I want you to prep a schedule for business, I want you to start thinking about what are you doing outside of business for personal fulfillment at this point, so you don't get in this like negative feedback loop of just being stuck in your own cycle in your own house by yourself all the time. Next, I want you to think about support, because when you go full time in business, it does feel, again, kind of going off of more of this personal front, it can feel very lonely because A, you're not talking to anybody. B, it's all your own decision making. C, like again, you are your whole fulfillment at that point. Your business like your livelihood depends on your business. And so we need to find areas for support, whether that is colleagues, whether that is having a coach like me, whether that is having a like mom's group in your area that you go out for, whether it's personal versus professional, it doesn't matter, but you need to identify where you need support in your business. Is it strategy? Is it somebody to bounce ideas off of? What is that support that you really need? And if you didn't see, we did release something called the Small Business Cafe yesterday on our podcast here. What it is it is a community of small business owners completely for free that I wanted to offer you guys as a space for you to be able to connect with each other. I see this in my programs where I create a community for people and how helpful it is for them just to have somebody to bounce ideas off of, people that have those same like audacious goals as them. And so I wanted to create something completely for free where we have calls, I provide resources, and really it's just providing you guys this free community where you're able to connect with a bunch of other business owners that are building a business just like you. They're clearly like-minded because they're here and listening to my podcast as well. And it's called the Small Business Cafe. I'm so excited to bring it to you. It really is where biz besties employees are able to sit across and actually sip coffee with each other. We are going to have calls and I'll be sharing resources, and there's so many things going to go into it. You can click the link in the show notes and join the Small Business Cafe. It is a lovely Slack community where we can all chit chat, but you need to have support. You need to have a community of business owners. You need to have, whether that's personally or professionally, whatever it looks like, having support outside of your business now that you will be so inside of your own head all of the time. It's going to be a great place for you. Like, it's something that is going to be very helpful for you to think about what support you could utilize going into it. Next is really just putting your 2 weeks in, or however much notice at your work makes sense. Now that you have kind of brainstormed, you've structured, you've figured out a lot of these things that we were talking about, and then I want you to celebrate the heck out of it. So I really want you to get a good idea of what do you need to do? What are the things that you want ready? What do you want in your bank account by the time you go full time? What does your schedule look like? Start getting a good idea of what your whole life might look like now. This should be incredibly exciting. And when I say business ownership is lonely and that you can be in your own head and then all of a sudden you're in your house all the time by yourself, I don't say that negatively. I say that because it's true. I live it, but it's something I would never give up for the world. The things that we are really doing right now are things that you have dreamt of, and I hope that you are celebrating it. You have worked so hard to get here, and being a full-time business owner is a gift. It is an incredible achievement that you have even achieved just thinking about this as a possibility for you, and it is so incredibly exciting. But of course, it comes with its own challenges. But at the end of the day, your business will benefit from having you full-time. There are so many people that come into my DMs that I want to like shake and be like, just go full time, please. But of course, I'm not in their bank account. I'm not living their life. But I know that your life can be so much more freedom filled. You have way more productivity. You get to enjoy your day. Your quality of life increases, as well as at the end of the day, business takes time in order to grow. And you have so much more time to devote to your business when you are full time. Now, some key pieces that I just want to bring to you that I know some of my past clients have said that they've thought about or that we've walked through as well. First things first is you can go part time in your corporate job. There's a lot of, and I know you're like, nope, my company would never allow that. Many do, saying, hey, I have this business. I really want to go full time in it, but I'm not ready to completely give you up. Is this a job that I could do 20 hours a week? Or is this something that I could do 10 hours a week? Some people create a contract with their employer that they go 20 hours a week for 6 months and almost like train in a new person. And then they give up and they give all of the activities up to that other person and then they go full time. Or they just stick working 10, 15, 20 hours a week at their normally full time job, or it just frees up 20 hours a week for them. It doesn't have to be you going from 40 hours to 0 hours. You can have a little bit of a balance there. The next one is I want you to look at costs that you will also be saving by working for yourself. What are the expenses that you have because you are working? For some, that's gas. For some, that's childcare. For some, that's uniform or whatever that might look like. What are the costs that you have every day because you are going to work? And we have to take that into account as well, because childcare is incredibly expensive now. That is something major that people are like, okay, well, if I was home, I could bring childcare down to 2 days a week so my kids could be home, and all of those different pieces as well. There's a lot of things that go into it. And then last but not least, something that I want to touch on is some people enjoy keeping their business as something that isn't dependent on their livelihood, or their livelihood isn't dependent on it. And I've had somebody even on my podcast talk about this, where I have some clients that make multiple six figures in their business. Their business is thriving and they like refuse to let their business be their everything. And I think there's ways to do this, but being full time, obviously, I run my business full time. I can't imagine having another job, but I've said if I moved across the country, I could see myself like alone, which hopefully at this point never happens, seeing that I have a fiance and a dog. But if I had to like up and move across the country somewhere, or if we started fresh, even if it was my fiance and I moving back to the Midwest or something like that, I could see myself working in a coffee shop on a Saturday if I didn't know anybody. And it just allows you to kind of get out of the house. But as well as I know people that want to keep a corporate job because it actually removes the pressure from their business. And Of course, it depends on how much sales your business is making and all of that, but it allows you to almost like, you're going to be okay no matter what you're doing in business. And business can feel more creative and fun if it's not dependent on you eating and you being able to afford rent. I have some clients that say that. I have some colleagues that say that. Is that they don't really see themselves ever quitting a full time job to go all in on their business unless it got to a certain point. And I think a lot of people kind of have that like certain point of like, all right, I would just be able to make that balance happen. Now, I have a lot of podcast episodes talking about how to not burn out and how to keep that balance and that freepreneur lifestyle that I'm always talking about. But it is very important to structure other things and have fulfillment elsewhere when you do have your business as your full time job, because you hear it all the time. These business owners saying that their business is all consuming and it's all of them and they feel so guilty to leave it on. But if we have self identity and our self worth in other things, we prioritize those things. You need to have hobbies or values, characteristics, things that you're working on outside of business as well. So I hope this was helpful for you. Let me know your questions. Let me know if this is something that you are thinking about doing, if this is a topic you'd like to hear more about. I really love to hear your insight on what episodes are feeling really good for you, what kind of your major takeaways are. Please reach out to me on Instagram at This Is Madison Page. I also love to give you a little stock on Instagram. It makes it so much easier for me to know who I'm speaking to on the other side of the camera when you get to reach out and be like, oh my gosh, I love your podcast, or I listened to your podcast today, new listener, whatever. I can then check it out and see what type of people are listening to the podcast as well. So always love to hear from you. I know that I did a little bit of a plug, but please join the Small Business Cafe. There are no strings attached. It is a space for you to get support from both me and other community members. I just want it to be a space where I can give back to you and actually sip coffee with you, because we are sitting here twice a week. I want to meet you. I want to have connection with you, and I want to be able to support you in a more direct space as it's such a perfect place for you to meet other business owners, bounce ideas off of them, ask them questions, and really just have a really supportive space for you to have these like-minded individuals at your fingertips. So click the link in the show notes. It is called the Small Business Cafe. There is no strings attached. I am so excited to bring this to you. I hope you have a wonderful day. I love you. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner always. I will chat with you in the next episode.